So, at Ring of Honor's Final Battle, a lot of interesting things happened. Like I said in the live stream, there were several moments, if you will, that kind of will be continued on elsewhere. Deonna Purrazzo, that is, coming out and challenging Rock-C, that's ROK-C, to a winner-take-all women's championship match after Hard to Kill, where she basically promises that she will beat Mickie James to become a Knockouts champion again. Deonna, of course, is the current AAA Reina de Reinas women's champion. On top of that, we had FTR show up and battle and brawl with the new 12-time ROH World Tag Team Champions, Jay and Mark the Briscoes, thus indicating that that feud is going to culminate or continue in some manner in AEW. This also backed up by the fact that several weeks ago the Briscoes were backstage at an AEW Dynamite. And furthermore, something else occurred as well. And this was probably one that I feel, no matter where it lands or no matter what wrestling promotion brings it in, I think is going to really help that promotion out. And that is at the end of a 8-man tribute match or appreciation match, EC3 got on the mic and cut a promo, basically saying that this is supposed to be a Ring of Honor, but there was no honor. His main gripe was the fact that Ring of Honor had become a corporate shell of what it was, and that a lot of wrestling was becoming that way. And of course, if a lot of you have been following EC3's, control your own narrative situation, this has been something that he has been working on since he was released from WWE late last year, or mid to late last year to, throughout this year. It's been something that he's been building on, working on, to try to, create into something that, not only brings eyes to the product, no matter where it's at, but also, I guess in a way, not just story-wise, but legit-wise, sends a message to all the corporations out there. And that message is the fact, as I just checked up there, that message is the fact that the men and women that wrestle for you, should be allowed to wrestle their way. They should be able to do their thing without being told what to do or how to do it. In other words, allow them to control their own narrative and let them, progress things as they see they should be progressed. And to me, when I hear about this control your own narrative thing by EC3, and I see the fact that he's creating some kind of group out of it, because at Final Battle, when he was, doing this promo, this work, shoot legit promo, whatever you want to call it, to tie into what he's doing, we saw a couple of guys show up. We saw Wesley Blake, the guy normally known as Wesley Blake, show up. We saw somebody else. I don't know who that is. Nobody does. I think somebody may have been able to identify him. We saw someone that was like their cameraman, someone that was documenting the whole thing, or has been documenting the whole thing. And then on top of that, we had the Titan, Adam Sharon, formerly Adam Schafer, I think. The Titan, Adam Schafer, formerly Braun Strowman, show up and basically destroy, along with Wesley Blake and this other guy, destroy not only Leon's, who's part of the foundation, I think, or was part of the foundation, but also take down Brian Johnson and somebody else, I think. I can't think who it was. But it was Brian Johnson and somebody else that came down and got beat up. And when Johnson came down, EC3 was addressing Leon's and then Johnson and then the other person that came down with him, pointing out that they had lost everything because of the fact that Ring of Honor had gone corporate. They allowed a corporate structure to rule their narrative, to basically hold them down. And that if they follow him, he will give them the freedom. And basically the beatdown we saw afterwards, and then them being taken to the back to basically be initiated into this control your narrative situation, really, again, really came across as, EC3 said it best. It wasn't, it felt like an invasion. It felt like something NWL wise, but it felt like there's something unique here. There's something unique that, whether you believe it's, a work shoot kind of thing going on, a legit thing going on, or something more, unprecedented and more, innovative and creative, whatever you want to look at it. This create your own narrative or control your own narrative, I think could be something, as I mentioned earlier, no matter where it lands. No matter where it lands. Because you right here at Final Battle, you had him basically abduct, if not unwillingly recruit, 3 people of the ROH roster, or formerly of the ROH roster, to be part of this, to indoctrinate them into this faction or this group organization that he's created. Now, here's what's interesting too. Somebody caught this. Somebody took a picture of this. Basically, when EC3 was going up the ramp, they were showing all these tributes, all these tribute videos, and these condolences, and and all that, and these memory videos, sent in by everybody that was once part of Ring of Honor, mostly by those in AEW and in Impact. And when the Young Bucks came on the screen, EC3, according to this photograph, gave him the double bird. He basically gave him he flipped them off, is what he did. And you can only wonder why he flipped them off. Is it because he doesn't like them? Or is that basically or is he working that into his narrative of the Young Bucks here represent what, wrestling has turned into, has become, and basically been taken away, from those who should be in charge of it, that being the wrestlers. Was it played into that? We don't know. Like I said, could it be a legit dislike? Maybe. Or was it something more of, hey, he's, like I said, he's playing it into the narrative of the Bucks represent what AEW and Ring of Honor kind of represented, or represents currently, that being AEW, and that is corporate sellouts, corporate wrestling. Who knows? But when I look at it, though, like I said, I see something with the potential to really be something more. Be something, so creative and so ingenious that it could really help any promotion that it's a part of, or any promotion that's willingly, allows it to be incorporated into their company as part of a story, work shoot, legit shoot, whatever you want to call it. To me, it just, what's the word I'm looking for? It just basically represents something, as I said earlier, something creative and innovative. And again, like I said, I know I'm repeating myself here, but it does bear repeating. That no matter where you take this control your narrative deal, I think it could really work. I could see him taking it to Impact, because Impact is owned by Anthem Sports. They're a corporation out of Canada and furthest parts of North America, the northern U.S. I can see him taking it there and saying Impact, is a shell of what it was, because it's now owned by corporateness. And that when it was once TNA, and maybe he can even throw in his Aunt Dixie as a work shoot reference or whatever, or just say once it was owned by the Jarretts, or it was owned by Dixie Carter and all that. Even probably throw out the fact that Dixie's not really his aunt, but just, she portrayed his aunt and all that. If you have him come out with his group on Impact and say, this is an example of corporate taking over because, Impact is a shell of its own, of its former self. It's not where it's supposed to be, because, maybe, like I say, you can have him point out that when the Jarretts ran it, things were good, things were on the up, or, on the up and up. Or when the Jarretts had to sell and still had to say, though, it was in a stable and, decent, perfect, well, not so perfect, but a decent place and atmosphere. That could work, because you're having him come out and basically preach against the fact that Anthem Sports is not letting the men and women of Impact behind the scenes and in the ring control the narrative, do their thing to help make the product better, help make the company better, if you will. So I could see him bringing it to Impact, and it would, to me, really work. Even if Impact's on Access TV, something like that being brought in, I think could really get, Impact and Anthem Sports to maybe look elsewhere, for another, spot on television to really, not only show the product, but introduce this concept that is, like I said earlier, is innovative and creative. Something that, honestly, I've not really seen in any other attempts by companies, whether it's Impact, WWE, AEW, you name it, to try to do something similar or to this extent. What I see here is something a little bit more different because it could be brought in anywhere, and you don't even have to bring it in long term. Just bring it in, long enough to send, a message on behalf of not just the wrestlers, the men and the women, if you will, but the fans that, hey, we want to control this business. We want the wrestlers to be allowed to do what they want to do, say what they want to say, and, help make things better. I think if, again, when you look at it, like I said, even though we've seen attempts of similar to this in the past, nothing has been at this scale. And like I said, whoever brings them in, not only will they give this control your narrative thing more exposure, but it will draw more fans to the product. And maybe there will be fans out there that will look at this control your own narrative deal and be like, I can understand where EC3's coming from. I see where he's coming from. I would love to see more of this. I would love to see other wrestlers from Impact, other wrestlers from this place or that place, join with him to send the message of, hey, we run this business, not corporate people. So I could see that. I could see that happening, and the potential is really there. All it has to do is be given a huger, bigger outlet to let that, to be showcased on, and I guarantee you, eyes will be drawn onto the product to see exactly what's going to happen next. And even if Impact doesn't bring them in, I could see AEW. I could see Tony Khan taking a shot at this. Because he could see, wait a minute, this has the potential not only to get more eyeballs on AEW, especially with them moving to TBS at the beginning of the year, but also being a wrestling fan himself, he can relate. He can probably, if not already, relates to what EC3 is saying. That it's the wrestlers that should be running things. It's the fans that should be running things. And all you have to do is let the men and women control their narrative, control what they do. And honestly, if he brings, EC3's control your narrative to AEW, no matter whether people say that Johnny Gargano is going to, be one of those free agents that shows up and basically it's game over for other corporations, but other wrestling places like WWE, or let's say when Kevin Steen shows up or Sami Zayn or whatever, and they all say, oh, it's game over for WWE now because look who's there. As good as that all sounds and everything, and even with a potential of more than likely undisputed era, undisputed elite reunion, if you will, in the works possibly, despite everybody saying that, oh, this is going to be the dagger, or this is going to be the death nail of 2021 for WWE and all that. To me, if he brings in the control your narrative deal with EC3, the Titan, Adam Schafer, Wesley Blake, Brian Johnson, that other guy, Insulon, if you will, and that unknown guy that was next to Wesley, and then the other guy, I think it was who was it, LSG or somebody. If they bring them in as part of this, along with others, and then you tease the fact that, hey, there's some AEW men and women that are not getting their opportunity, and then you have someone like EC3 come out and say, hey, you join me, you'll get your opportunity because you're going to control your own narrative. You're taking back what you feel is yours. To me, honestly, you bring that to the first Dynamite on TBS in 2022. Like I said, everybody wants to say that when this guy shows up or this guy shows up, it's pretty much game over for WWE. Or it's pretty much going to make WWE change the game finally. You bring because as much as that sounds great, and it does, in all due respect, they bring in this control your narrative deal. That right there, you put that on a national platform like the Turner Networks, TBS, and TNT. That right there, two of the biggest networks cable-wise in the world, in the country, if not in the country, but the world, I should say. You showcase it on there, then nothing more has to be said. Because that right there will change the game. Like I was saying, you debut that, you put that onto the Turner Network, TBS, TNT, and like I said, you kick off the first Dynamite on TBS with that, and then you showcase it like under the quarterly specials and all that, and you got a larger audience, not just viewership-wise, but attendance-wise. To me, that right there, as I was trying to say before the phone rang, that right there is game changer. Because if you have, this EC3 and his control your narrative thing on a big platform like All Elite Wrestling, I'm going to tell you right now, that will send a message throughout the wrestling sports entertainment world that, fans and wrestlers alike are sick and tired of all the BS, all the corporate, what's the word I'm looking for? Corporate infusion, if you will, corporate input and stuff like that. That they just want the wrestling back to the way it was, or they want the sports entertainment wrestling back to the way it was. Not have all these corporate mandates, all these corporate inputs and all that. Just have it back to the way it was. So to me, when I look at the possibility of Tony Khan, bringing that in, to me that sends a message. That sends a huge message, in my opinion, to all wrestling out there of, hey, this thing is this unique, creative, innovative thing that these guys are putting together, is sending a message of, hey, no more corporate BS. You want us to wrestle for you, that's fine, but let us do our thing. Let us do it the way we want. Let us tell the stories the way we know they can be told, and just leave it at that. And like I said, you bring that, you put that onto a bigger platform like AEW, and to me, nothing more has to be said. Nothing more has to be said. I mean, you could say it's like an NWO like group, but it's not. It feels like that. It feels like an outsider group, but it feels more like an outsider group that's trying to take in story, legit, and work, is trying to take back the business, not just for them, but for the fans. So you put that on a platform like AEW, unlike Impact, where it could still thrive, but you put it on AEW, whew! I tell you, the rest is history. The rest is history, and it'll be up to what AEW does with it to help really send that message, if you know what I mean. Now, what's unique about AEW, I should say, is they allow the men and women, believe it or not, to compete elsewhere. One of the things that JD was proud to praise and shout out to Tony Khan about was not only Tony's contributions to Final Battle this past Saturday, but also his contributions the same night to House of Glory. And, when they needed, talent, when they needed, certain talent, or they needed, some kind of, substitution or some kind of fix to certain situations they were finding themselves in. And I do have to agree, Tony Khan didn't have to do it, but he did. He went out of his way to make sure all sides of the equation were, taken care of. And to me, if you bring in EC3's Control Your Narrative deal into AEW, let it be as it is, and let it be exposed on that bigger, grander stage, and then you allow him to take that group to places like House of Glory, places like the NWA, places like MLW, places like AAA, New Japan Strong. To me, not only will you be giving more exposure, not only to new members to your roster, but you'll be giving EC3 and his group more exposure to legit work, shoot, whatever you want to call it. Send that message of control your narrative. So to me, even though, like I said, Impact, they could probably thrive, AEW, they'll do more than thrive. They'll get it way out there, and no matter where they'll be allowed to go, outside of All Elite Wrestling, they take that with them. Again, that's just the beginning of sending a message to all the other promotions out there that, hey, not only wrestling fans are sick and tired of your BS, but so are the wrestlers. So to me, I think it's a win-win if they go to AEW. Because again, like I said, they could thrive in Impact, but they'll go beyond thriving in AEW. Now, you might say, well, what about WWE? What if they would have taken a shot at it? Well, I'll say this. If Nick Kahn, no relation to Tony Khan, but if Nick Kahn, Bruce Pritchard, Kevin Dunn, Michael Hayes, and Vince McMahon had any sense, and some of them do, not all of them, but if some of them had sense, they would look at that and be like, I wonder if we brought that in, if people would tune in by the droves to see it. And there's no doubt people would, because they know exactly what it is. They're following it. They know exactly what it is. But I guarantee you, if they decide, should we take a chance and bring them in, hopefully somebody, whether it's Michael Hayes, maybe Nick Kahn himself, who knows, maybe someone will be smart enough to be like, if we bring them in, we got to let them be as they are. We can't change them. We can't turn them into just another faction to be like, oh, I'm going to win all the belts, ha ha ha. No, we need to let them be as they are and let it go from there. And then if they feel like stepping in, because maybe it's getting beyond control or beyond their control, as they're known to do, then that would probably make them into another faction. But to me, if I'm WWE and I have any sense, and I'm like, I need to get these people back on my side. I need the wrestling community back on my side. To me, you bring in a control your narrative-like group led by EC3, and you let them, even if you do a pay per appearance with them, if you will, put them on a part-time deal so they're not always overly exposed, but you bring them in, and you let them be what they are now. What, believe it or not, Retribution should have been. What Retribution should have been. You let Control Your Narrative be the way they are now, as they are presented. I guarantee you, fans will start tuning in, because this will be something they wouldn't expect from WWE. They wouldn't expect someone like EC3 to expose WWE for the corporate shell that it is. For the fact that it's taking away wrestling and true sports entertainment from the fans. That it's a disgrace to what the company was. And that Vince McMahon Sr. is rolling around in his grave in shame. You let them be that way. And then you tease the fact that they're going to recruit certain men and women in WWE. And you don't limit them. Like you did with Retribution. You do not limit them to one brand. You let them go anywhere they want. You let them go to Raw. You let them go to NXT. You let them go to SmackDown. And I guarantee you let them be as they are. Legit work, shoot, whatever you want to call it. And then tease the fact that they're going to recruit some talent across the brands to join them, because they could see the message that, EC3 and this group is trying to bring. And I guarantee you, WWE is going to probably get more viewership numbers and more fans back on their side than they've ever had before. I guarantee it. Now, it's not a total guarantee, but it's a guarantee. People will come in and view in the droves when it comes to viewership numbers. That is a fact. But will WWE do it? I would, if I'm, I'll tell you this honestly. If I'm WWE, I'd try anything to basically get people off my back for saying, hey, you're not the way you used to be. You're not innovative. You're not creative anymore. You don't push new people. Honestly, if I wanted to get people off my back and say I'm nothing more than a money person, all I care about is making money, then I bring in something like that. Now, is it likely they'll do it? Not really. Because the last thing WWE, wants to do is bring in person or even a group that basically exposes them for who they really are. Even if that group can generate viewership and money for them. So, to me, it's very highly unlikely right now, unless things change. So if I was to say the most likely out of the promotions I just mentioned, it's going to be AEW. I mean, again, like I said, they could get exposure and thrive on Impact, but they'll get more than just exposure and more than thrive on AEW. Because not only will they be able to, do the thing as they're doing now, in All Elite Wrestling, and on a bigger stage in front of a bigger audience on more, worldwide, nationwide viewed channels, but they'll also be allowed to go elsewhere to like House of Glory, MLW, NWA, AAA, PWG. They'll be able to go to all these places and continue the same story, the same narrative as they're calling it, and get more exposure and get the wrestling world really talking and looking at the fact that this is something that's sending a message, legit work, whatever you want to call it, that not only are the fans sick and tired of the corporate BS and interference and mandates and all that, but so are the wrestlers. So to me, I could definitely see them doing it. But what do you all think? What do you think about this EC3 control your narrative deal? Do you think it's something that's going to be good for the business? And where do you think it'll thrive better? Do you think Impact would be a good place for it? Or do you think AEW is a better place for it? And do you think if WWE wanted to, they would try to bring it in to try to, kiss up to the fans to get off their back? What are your thoughts? Comment below, live chat during the premiere, like the video. Check me out at my Teespring store, especially in time for Christmas. You can find stuff there. Also, check me out at BW Rose's discussions on all your favorite audio podcast locations. I am up to 298 podcasts now, guys. I got 2 more to go to 300. I also got my first one via the video upload option, so you guys can check that out if you feel like it. It's basically a repeat of the same one I just uploaded today, which was the topics on my mind. Also, check me out at BW. Also, if you're listening to the podcast, before I say anything else, if you're listening to the podcast on Anchor.fm, listener support is open if you want to help me there. Also, check me out at BW Roses on VENMO for content you can't get anywhere else. Also, check me out at patreon.com/BW Roses to support me at the $1, $3 tier. $3 tier gets you access to content exclusive to Patreon for a limited time. And also check me out at Venmo at Brian-Walmer-2. So until next time, guys, again, let me know what your thoughts are on this whole thing. Comment below, live chat during the premiere, and I'm out.